The biggest, most expensive golf tournament in America just ended. It's called the Masters. And flat broke Washington, D.C.'s mayor went there. Airfare, tickets, hotel, and food paid for by the taxpayers because she said it was to promote Washington, D.C. at the Masters golf tournament. But she won't say how much money of the taxpayers she spent. There's a real weird mayor. I know, it doesn't narrow it down very much.
I was going to say.
In Washington, D.C., named Muriel Bowser. Now, I know you know, and a lot of people that have watched for years know that I'm a big golf fan, and I play golf, and I watch golf, and I think golf is just like the coolest sport ever. And the dream of everybody that's a golfer who's not a professional is to someday go to the Masters tournament in Augusta, Georgia. It's impossible to get tickets for. And if you do get them, you're paying a fortune to scalpers, you know, for parking and general admission and all the stuff you buy there. And nobody goes unless you're completely nuts to spend a whole lot of money, except if you're the mayor of Washington, D.C. So it's just leaked that Muriel Bowser went to the Masters tournament last week and had the taxpayers pay for it because she said the reason she was going to Augusta was to make business deals for Washington, D.C. I don't know who she's making business deals with. You got the golfers. They're trying to win the biggest tournament in the world. And you've got about 100,000 psycho golf fans watching the golfers. And that's the only people that are there. They're not like, hey, meet me under the tree on the second fairway and let's make a deal for Washington. This is the lady in question. This is Mayor Bowser explaining how the thousands and thousands of dollars that were spent were, quote, as part of a sports and economic development business. So airline tickets for her and her people, scalped tickets at the front door, parking at the front door. She says she was going to revitalize the Gallery Place in the Chinatown neighborhood, you know, because there's so many investors walking around in the grass in Augusta, Georgia, who want to invest in Chinatown in Washington, D.C. How do people get away with this, Will? She went on the greatest golf vacation in world history, and everybody in Washington paid for it. And by the way, Washington's broke. So
Yeah.
I'm really glad they could scrape up, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000 for this trip.
You know, I think the reason why they can get away with it, Barry, is because we're talking about the left. They can commit crime, they can do corruption, and it's perfectly fine. I guess the question is what would it look like if we started seeing people like Mayor Bowser, and even because, you know, DC is broke, and we're talking about like even in California with Gavin Newsom, the state is broke. What would it look like if they did a complete reversal on their current activities, their current policies, meaning that they actually started doing things that made sense? People would say something is wrong with them. See, we expect them to do what they're doing. And then what's really interesting is that they don't want us to talk about it, but yet they do it. They constantly do it, but you're not supposed to acknowledge it.
The press asked her aide, how much did you spend on the tickets? How much was the airline, you know, probably first class flying from D.C. to Atlanta, and then the private driver to drive up to Augusta, Georgia.
Because they're not going to do an Uber or a Lyft. Most definitely not.
And the hotels are sold out like 4 years in advance. People rent their houses out for $20,000 a week, and they literally go to relatives' houses because Augusta is a little tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and there's nowhere to stay. So if she's there for her golf business development meetings, that trip was a fortune, and they won't tell us how much. Boy, if I was in D.C., that would really irritate me. But then again, Washington, D.C. is the same town that elected a mayor that went to jail for cocaine and hookers, and he got out of jail, and they reelected him. That's Washington, D.C.
But if he was a Republican, that would have never happened.
No, well, the district is what, 90% Democrat,
If not
something
more.
like that.
If not
Yeah.
more, I think the only time you have any kind of Republican to show up if they're like visiting, you know.
Well, you know what? It's a great gig. Well, if you can get away with it. I'm dying to follow up on this story and find out how much she ripped off the taxpayers of Washington, D.C. for her economic development meeting at Augusta National, right? Biggest golf tournament in the world. Yeah, everybody there wants to talk about her redevelopment of Chinatown. Don't you think?
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know, kind of really quick, you know what it makes me think about? And it's on the tip of my tongue. I'm trying to remember. There's another town, and if I'm not mistaken, this is in Chicago, where the local mayor there was spending all this money going to Vegas, going on all these trips. It's on the tip of my tongue. And she's black. And when they started asking her about it, she said, "How dare you ask me? I'm a black woman." And
that was the mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, she spent. Was it Chicago or it's a little town in Chicago? It's a little town.
No. You're
in Illinois.
Right. It was that little town outside of Chicago.
Yes. And
she said, "I'm a black woman. You can't ask me those.
You
questions."
can't. Yes. And she spent all this taxpayer dollars going to Vegas. It's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, she refused to show them the credit cards that she was paying with their money. By the way, just for fun, because I am a golf nut. Mr. Flores says he was happy to see Scotty took the green jacket. Me too. He's a nice Christian man. Talks about, you know, how he and his wife have Jesus in their life, and that's really important. He's one of those really kind, no ego kind of guys, and that was his second time he's won the Masters tournament. So it's nice to see a nice guy, who believes in religion, coming out on top. I'm sure he didn't meet with Mayor Bowser because he was busy winning the golf tournament and God knows how many millions.
Well, as soon as she found out that he was a Christian, she really didn't want to have nothing to do with it.
Probably.
I'm just saying.
Probably not.